Hello and a very warm welcome to World This Week by Latest Laws. This is our weekly program, so subscribe and press the bell icon to get notified. My name is Monica Rahar and let's get started by having a look at Supreme Court this week. The Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Anita Sharma and others versus the New India Assurance Company Limited and another has expressed its displeasure over the approach which is adopted by the High Court on examination of witnesses. And while doing so, the court has stated that the role of courts while examining evidence in accident claim cases ought not to be to find fault with the non-examination of some of the best eyewitnesses. Rather, it should be only to analyze the material placed on record. The court in another case has stated that the Indian flap-shell turtle was different from Indian soft-shell turtle, and hence the criminal proceedings against the accused of seizing the Indian flap-shell turtle shall be quashed, as the turtle did not find any mention in the schedule of Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. The top court, while considering a criminal appeal in case of attempted murder, has upheld the conviction under Section 307 of the IPC and has stated that the accused can be convicted for crimes through his or her individual acts in case group conviction under Section 149 of the IPC fails. The court, while hearing another criminal appeal, has overturned High Court's conviction in a case of dowry death after reaching to the conclusion that the deceased wife did not die of an unnatural death. The court thus has held that unnatural death must be proved if conviction is sought in case of a dowry death. The apex court in the case of SD Containers Indore versus Messrs Maltec Packaging Limited, while discussing the case, has dealt with in detail the interplay of Section 22, subsection 4 of the Designs Act 2002 and the Commercial Courts Act. And while doing so, the court has stated that High Court with no commercial division can cancel design which is granted under Section 22, subsection 4 of the Designs Act. The court in the case of Jayant versus State of MP, while dealing with the case under Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act, has remarked that there must be some stringent provisions which may have a deterrent effect so that the violators may think twice before committing the offence and also before causing damage to the earth and nature. The Bharatiya Kisan Union has approached the Supreme Court against the 3 farm laws which were passed by the central government, claiming that the laws will make the farmers vulnerable to corporate greed. Now let's proceed to the next segment of our news analysis and have a look at the Delhi High Court this week. So first we have a very landmark decision delivered by the Honorable High Court of Delhi in the case of Karan versus State NCT of Delhi. In this particular case, the court, while reflecting on the plight of the victims, gave detailed guidelines or directions governing payment of compensation to the victims in terms of Section 357 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. The court prescribed detailed procedure with respect to the conduct of a summary inquiry by the Delhi State Legal Services Authority, and the Delhi State Legal Services Authority is also bound to prepare subsequently a victim impact report. Now, the purpose of this victim impact report, it is to indicate 2 things. The first being the paying capacity of the accused, and second being the loss suffered by the victims. And the accused persons, they are also liable or mandatorily required to submit an affidavit of their income and the assets that they own in order to facilitate the computation of the compensation which is to be granted or awarded to the victims. While discrediting the tutor testimony of a child victim, the High Court in the case of Altaf Ahmed, also known as Rahul versus the state, has held that the presumption under Section 29 of the POCSO Act applies when the prosecution establishes the foundational facts. And how does the prosecution do that? By leading evidence. Now, this presumption, it is held by the court to be rebuttable by either discrediting the witnesses through cross-examination or by leading defense evidence. The High Court has asked the centre to inform it if the e-commerce giants like Flipkart, Amazon, Snapdeal, they're complying with the requirement of displaying country of origin on products which are sold on their platforms. Now let's proceed to the next segment and have a look at the Bombay High Court this week. The Bombay High Court has expressed its displeasure over the repeated incidents where the police has claimed that the CCTV cameras which are installed in their police station complexes, they're not working. The court stated that this will defeat the whole purpose behind installing such cameras. Recently, on December 2, the Supreme Court in the landmark decision has held that it is mandatory for having CCTV cameras installed in all police stations across the country, and such installation are also mandatory at central agencies complexes, be it the CBI or the NIA or the Enforcement Directorate, and so on and so forth. Now let's proceed and have a look at the Allahabad High Court this week. The Allahabad High Court has recently in a decision said that if a Hindu man wants to adopt a child, his wife's consent is necessary for such an adoption. If he is living separately from his wife and has not been divorced from her, then the approval of the wife who is living separately is also necessary, and not doing so will lead to an invalid adoption. The court has asked the Election Commission of India to file its reply in response to a PIL which has sought freezing the lotus as the symbol of Bharatiya Janata Party, as it is considered as the national flower of our country. Now let's proceed and have a look at the High Court of Punjab and Haryana. The High Court has declined to grant relief which is sought by AAP MP Sanjay Singh in a defamation suit which was filed against him by Shiromani Akali Dal leader Bikram Singh. It was alleged in this particular defamation suit that the import of statements which were made by Sanjay Singh was that Bikram Singh was involved in drug trafficking. The court, while dealing with this particular matter, also dealt with in detail the provisions which are contained under Section 202 of the CRPC, and the court, while doing so, held that after the amendment to Section 202, it is mandatory for the magistrate concerned to conduct an inquiry or to cause an investigation to be conducted before issuing the process if the accused resides beyond his area of jurisdiction. Now let's proceed with the miscellaneous segment of our news analysis. The top court, while keeping the COVID-19 situation in mind, has decided not to conduct the Advocate on Record exam for the year 2020, and this exam is going to be most likely conducted in the month of June the very next year. A Delhi court has discharged Gautam Gambhir, who is a cricketer turned politician, of all the charges in case of alleged criminal breach of trust and cheating flat buyers. The Executive Committee of the Supreme Court Bar Association has resolved to condemn the use of force and also of repressive measures against farmers who are protesting against the newly brought farm laws by the central government. In a huge relief for the International Institute of Hotel Management, the High Court of Calcutta has granted an injunction which has restrained the Indian Institute of Hotel Management from using the same expression mark or logo which is carrying the acronym IIHM, which is used by the International Institute of Hotel Management for its business name, style, or any other use whatsoever which it can be put to. In response to the plea advanced by the NCB, which has sought cancellation of bail granted to TV comedian Bharti Singh and her husband in a drugs case, the defense has said that there is nothing on record to show that the magistrate was informed about the inability of the special prosecutor to attend court hearing. The civil suit, which has sought ownership of Krishna Janmabhoomi land and also the removal of mosques situated adjacent to the Krishna Janmabhoomi, will be taken up for hearing by a Mathura court on January 7. Now let's proceed with the last segment of our news analysis, which is the international news. The US government and 48 states have filed parallel antitrust lawsuits against Facebook, which is accusing the social media giant of anti-competitive conduct by accusing its market power to create a monopoly and crushing small competitors. As per reports, this is a move which may force Facebook to sell WhatsApp and Instagram. The chief financial officer of Huawei has returned to a Canadian court this week as per her legal battle against the extradition to the US continued. This appearance is her first appearance since the US media reported that the US Department of Justice is discussing a deal to set her free in exchange for her admission of wrongdoings in a criminal case. Chinese Supreme Court has hired Uganda's former Chief Justice as a member of its expert committee on the adjudication of international commercial disputes. The lawyer of Saudi Arabian Crown Prince has asked a US court to dismiss a case which was filed by a former top-ranking Saudi intelligence official claiming it has no jurisdiction over the prince.
That's all we have for this week. The links of all these updates are available in the description box for your kind approval. You may refer to them. Thank you for being with us.